Welcome to No Question About That Daily, here with Adam to discuss United versus Chelsea, game 2 of the Ruud van Nistelrooj era. Adam, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I know you're the busiest man in podcasting at the minute, so it's a pleasure to be part of it.
What else have I got to do that's better than this? But don't answer that one. There are many things, but for now, this will do. It's better than the weather where I am. Presumably, where you are, down south, it will be coming into the summertime soon.
Yeah, no, got a nice day of sun today, 27 and sunny. So, going to be good. Cold play tonight, which will be nice. And a little bit better than dreary Seattle, I imagine.
Yes, it is raining lots here, but there you go. It will be that. We don't need to talk about the weather again because it'll be like this for the next 6 months without pause. All right, United versus Chelsea at Old Trafford. Ruud van Nistelrooj won his first game as an interim manager, 5-2 against Leicester. He's got a couple more after this against PAOK and then Leicester again before Ruben Amorim takes over. Before we get on to Chelsea, how are you feeling about the official announcement of Amorim taking over?
I was saying last night, I understand the hesitation a bit because of previous experience, but I don't think this is the same as all those other announcements. I feel like this is the best place we've been in the last decade to actually appoint a head coach and have that structure around him. I think with Ten Hag, things were fundamentally broken. So even with that new structure, unfortunately, we pretty quickly learned that things weren't going to change in the way that we wanted. So I'm pretty optimistic. I think there's a bit of revolutionary change in having a manager who will not be playing a 4-2-3-1, will change things up. I know formation numbers are largely overthought, but I think that radical shift is sort of necessary for the club. So I'm sort of optimistic. It might be something we're not used to, and I think that's for the best. What about you?
Yes, I have a sense of optimism. The 3-4-3, 4-3-3, whatever telephone number we want to talk about, it's not that important, actually. In and out of possession doesn't look wildly different from most other leading managers. I do think what is different, as you say, he's head coach. First time United have had a head coach, not a manager. That may be irrelevant, I suppose, and just nomenclature, but I think it points to the fact that we've built up this structure around him. There's now a massive support team. Football director, technical director, director of recruitment, CEO, and all the Ineos team as well, plus new analytics team, new medical team, like everything. Amorim will come in with a squad that is not perfect by any means, but is much better than 14th or last year's 8th, and he can build on that. He's going to have to make some compromises, I assume, given what he wants to play and the personnel he's got. There probably won't be loads of spending in January, but there will be next summer, at least a reasonable amount for him to fix the holes he's got. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. I mean, let's see. The press he gets from inside Portugal is super positive. I think all the analysts have been talking about what he brought to Sporting, both in terms of his acumen as a manager, as a coach, as a tactician, but also his charisma and his comfort in sort of fronting the organisation, and that's really important at United. All seems to bode well. Now, the fact that a whole bunch of Liverpool and City-aligned journalists have felt it very necessary to point out that they did not want this guy gives me even more confidence, because, why doth they protest so much?
It's every time, right? Every time something happens, it's like, oh, we were never interested. I don't know why they're so insistent on the briefing away from it. Just like, you've been better than United on the pitch. You don't need to do all this briefing, but they always feel the need to be like, oh, I was never interested anyway. No. There was something we were never looking at.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, I know. It points to chip on the shoulder and a lack of confidence, I think. It's more City who seem to put out 27 press releases and brief 100 journalists about this, and a few pieces of sort of plugged Liverpool in there too. But yes, there's still a lack of confidence and a chip on the shoulder over it. The Etihad about this. Kind of amusing, really. We're still the story, even though we're absolutely rubbish on the pitch. All right. We weren't rubbish on the pitch against Leicester. Will we be rubbish against Chelsea, who are no longer the basket case, really? Maresca has actually got this team functioning. Not perfect by any means, but we've scored 8 goals. They've got 19, right? That might tell you something about the relative strengths and weaknesses of the teams this season. He's shifted things around where they are playing a 4-2-3-1, but Cole Palmer has moved away from the right-hand side of the attack to an out number 10, kind of Bruno under Ollie, very, very far forward, so he can create the chances and score the goals, and he still is.
Yeah, well, it's Cole Palmer is just the machine of that, but the engine of that team. 7 goals, 5 assists in the Premier League. That would be handy at Manchester United. That feels like the biggest aspect of this game is how does United combat that? So I've been envisioning this Ander Herrera, Eden Hazard, Manuel Ugarte, Palmer, 2024 rebirth. Would we see something like that? I think Chelsea's the sort of side at the moment, because they aren't perfect, they do rely a lot on Palmer. So do you stop Palmer and force Chelsea to beat you another way? And they're able to do that, but do you take away their biggest strength? Do you compromise?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether they'll have any specific tactical sort of instructions for Ugarte there. I mean, I don't expect Ruud will suddenly start going to a man-to-man pressing system when we've had this kind of zonal system for the last 2.5 years or so. So I think it'll be incumbent on Ugarte to do that job, but within his zone. And he did a very good job against Leicester, much improved, I thought, like with all the caveats of playing Leicester B and how important that is or how difficult that is. But a big improvement. It felt more balanced as a team immediately, just with him sort of covering that zone. It's a bigger job. Chelsea got other weapons. I mean, they've found a way to get past Jadon Sancho much quicker than we did. He couldn't play anyway because he couldn't play against his parent club. But Enzo Maresca said yesterday he's ill. Funny how Jadon Sancho suddenly became ill after he was dropped from the team. Maybe a coincidence. Or not. But Pedro Neto, Nodi, Madueke sort of appear to be the first choice wide players, both extremely quick, both can score goals. And then Nicholas Jackson, a proper centre forward. He can be wasteful, but he's a target there. And so it just feels like a very balanced team, Chelsea.
They are, and that's probably the thing that worries me about taking Palmer away. They still have threats. It's a really big test of, I think we still are defensively frail. I think Andre Onana's bailed us out on many occasions this season. If you look at that expected goals save data, he's spared us more embarrassment. I think it's about between 5 and 6 goals before the Leicester game. So, you'd anticipate that it's Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez and Dalot. A massive test for the 2 fullbacks against quick, wide players who will take them on. And that's how Chelsea do move the ball. They're not a progressive passing side as much as they are a ball-carrying side. So I'm more curious and nervous about that. We have struggled to contain wide players or defending the back post. Diogo Dalot has really struggled at times at that, as you well know. So that does make me nervous. It does make you think that it's going to be a bit of a free-flowing contest. I'm not sure what you think about that, but yeah, and then in midfield as well, Caicedo and Lavia. I don't think Enzo's going to play after his midweek disaster class against Newcastle. But a big test again for probably Casemiro and Ugarte, who I thought had some nice chemistry against Leicester, albeit the opposition that they played.
Yeah, I mean, it's balanced for all the strengths and weaknesses that are well documented with Casemiro and Ugarte. Casemiro's sort of physical decline. Ugarte being in there gives some protection to him, and it's covering the space that has been Casemiro's biggest problem. I think Dan and I earlier in the season were kind of advocating for this to happen just because Casemiro's a fine number 8. He scores goals, right? He's got more goals in the last 2 seasons than Jack Grealish has in the last 4. Unbelievably so, but he does. And so, yeah, and we know how dangerous he is in the air. He's a risk taker with the passing, which isn't always good for United, I think. But if it's slightly further up the pitch, then it's a risk worth taking sometimes. Ugarte just gives us a little bit of security. It's definitely not the perfect midfield for sure. And I don't think, I would imagine that United will buy 2 central midfielders in the summer if they can afford it. But just to try and get the balance of what Amorim is likely to like, because he's going to want a linking number 8. I suppose there'll be a question about whether that is Bruno's role or someone else's, but I suspect he will. And obviously, Casemiro and Eriksen are getting on. For this game, I'd be shocked if it isn't Casemiro and Ugarte in central midfield. And we can guesstimate almost all of the rest of the team, right? I don't think there'll be some major changes from midweek, particularly. Rudy's like here for 4 games. He knows that. Play square pegs, square holes. Just keep simple. No radical tactical changes required.
You can pretty much guess it. Yeah. Like I'd like Ahmad to play, but that doesn't seem likely. I think we're likely to see the same lineup from this week against Leicester. Marcus Rashford on the right again, although that is not a square peg, square holes assignment. I'm really curious to see Rasmus Højlund again without a game under his belt. I think he comes back in for Joshua Zirkzee, who again struggled to get up to pace. I just think it's taking him time to adjust. I think we are being a little tough on him, albeit it is a tough adjustment. Serie A Young Player of the Year. We just have to be patient. It's just a bit tricky when you've got 2 strikers who have only really had 1 full season in their league before coming across, and then you're relying on them as a source of goals. Like, it's not any surprise that we were linked to. Yeah. Well, we found out this week that Danny Welbeck was under consideration in the summer. But it is concerning how we are going to continue to create goals. But being that we're regressing to the mean a little bit, like we did midweek, maybe we'll see that again. Or maybe the players are just feeling free, or maybe it's just a feeling. To say it as simply as that, I'm not sure.
All vibes. Yeah, I'm good with the vibes. Look, I expect much more from Xerxes. 1 goal in 14 is just inevitable. He's going to come under scrutiny and criticism. And there's already, I saw today, I know I shouldn't get triggered by this, but Alex from TalkSport, Alex Cook from TalkSport was doing a keep sell, and he had Xerxes as a sell. After 14 games, seriously, we're going to do this, are we? But that's just reflective of the kind of general internet opinion, I think. Of course, he's going to come under pressure, but he's 23 years old. As you said, Serie A Young Player of the Year. I expect a lot more from him. It's not passing the eye test at the moment. He doesn't get into the right areas to score goals. So he's not going to improve on this record unless he changes that. Amorim coming in, plays with a big physical mobile number 9, which isn't the prototype of Xerxes. It is the prototype of Højlund. And I wouldn't be surprised to see sort of Højlund do really well. I think he's got the raw ingredients for sure. As for the balance of the attack, I'd just like them to swap over. I think Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right is a much better balance. Garnacho his game doesn't seem to fall off in quite the same way. I just want to see Marcus Rashford narrow. And if he still keeps, I've been banging on about this for a while, and I'll get a bunch of YouTube comments saying, "Why are you still supporting Rashford? He's been a failure for a while." If he gets to play in the position where he's successful, which he did do during the first season under Ten Hag, and most definitely hasn't since then, and he still fails, then I'll be on the same train of, we should sell this guy. But for the moment, I think, why do you take the only player in the team that can score 30 goals in a season, get him as far away from the goal as possible? It's actually bonkers. He wasn't really that good against Leicester. I mean, loads of plus points, and I'm not sure he was awesome there either. So maybe that's one for the haters. I hope he likes big games, right? He's a big game player for sure. So anyway, I think that's the balance of the sides. Chelsea, we'll see. They've moved things around a little bit. Maresca's been playing basically two different sides in the cups and the league. So I guess we go back to league again. I mean, the front four, I think, is set. Behind that, it's a bit different. You said Lavia probably over Enzo Maresca. Maybe, yeah. I mean, certainly away from home, that makes a lot of sense. And then the back four, that's been a bit more set. Although he's been swapping around the central defenders a fair bit. Sorry. But to your point earlier, does it point to an attacking game? Yeah, it could do. I hope it's just not like the chaos of Stamford Bridge last April when we managed to chuck away a win after the 100th minute.
One of the many games we don't talk about anymore.
We should. I guess we can move on, right? That trauma's done.
No, I don't think I'll ever forget the Cole Palmer goal, unfortunately. No. I'll never understand why he was in so much space in the 100th minute of the game.
That was right in the prime chaos ball under Eric. That was, wasn't it? All right. Well, before we leave, I noticed Eric put out a statement. He's taken a couple of days to digest. Ruud talked about him in the press conference, actually. He was asked, first question he was asked, what do you know, basically? And this was before the official announcement came out from United to say Amorim is in on the 11th of November. And he was asked about both what he thought about what the future looked like. He said, I'm here for a short time. That's it. I'm the interim until the next man comes in. It was very clear about that. And then he said, yes, he'd spoken to Eric. He spoke to Eric on Monday when he left, and he spoke to him on the phone yesterday, that is Thursday, as well, and had lots of nice things to say about Eric there. And then Eric's agency, SEG, which has, let's say, a mixed reputation at Manchester United, put out a statement, which I thought was a bit on it. I know, I'm being cynical. It's just a bit formulaic. I wish Eric had done a video or something like that, where he could be himself rather than just a kind of agency written press statement, which just didn't feel very authentic. I mean, he, as Ruud said in his press conference, this man really cared about United. I believe that. I believe it. I don't think he did a good job overall. He didn't do the job we wanted, at least, but I never had any doubts about his passion or his commitment.
No, I don't think you can doubt his passion. I did enjoy how he spoke about the fans, but it was a real elephant in the room that he didn't mention the players. And I think releasing it through an agency who has been polarizing in his tenure, and I don't think he wouldn't not be aware of that, is probably not the way to go. If you just post a video on your Instagram, there's an authenticity to that. I think there's something endearing about that, as opposed to, it's like when players post something on social media immediately after a result, and it's not them saying it. There's just a lack of authenticity that I just don't think people resonate that. And I don't think that's a cynical way to look at it. It's just, it doesn't quite ring true. So I think it's more than acceptable to say that, he had the passion for the job. It didn't go well, and we would have liked it to go better. But that probably wasn't the ideal way to release anything post the job going. But time to move on. Yeah,
we move on. We move forward. 3 games to go under Ruud. I hope they find a space for him at the club. It seems unlikely, doesn't it? With, I think, 5 coaches coming in as part of Amorim's team. I mean, it's of the 5, 3 of them are in their 20s. They're super young, and then one is in his 60s, which is real. And they're people that have been with him since Braga. So you can kind of understand he wants people he trusts and knows how they work, rather than just being parachuted into a job, which some managers don't mind, by the way. Some will just go from club to club and take the club's coaches rather than bring their whole own team. It's fewer that do it that way. But he's bringing his whole team, which will call into question, his goalkeeper coach, Georgsson, the set-piece coach, Ruud, and obviously Ten Hag's already gone, and I suspect they're all going to go, which is, well, I guess it's what it is. Ruud especially, I'd like to find a place, and he said, I will do whatever it takes for this club. Why wouldn't you want that?
Well, there's been a bit of discussion that he's sort of realised from his experience at PSV that he's not necessarily a head coach yet, and wants to get that experience as a number 2 or more in the coaching sphere. So you wonder whether it'll come down to the dilution of his duties a bit as to whether he stays. I hope that he does because of the experience and his link to the club, and I think that does matter a little bit at a club like United. Obviously, all the other ones, I won't even try and pronounce the goalkeeping coach, but you'd expect he'll depart. I think everyone bar Ruud is almost certain to go. But you wonder with Amorim, does he feel comfortable enough in his own skin just to feel comfortable enough for Van Nistelrooj to stay and have someone who will do that same role that he had with Ten Hag and challenge his ideas and have not necessarily an opposing voice, just a contrasting one. So that will be interesting. That'll probably be the first test for him to see what kind of man he is, what kind of man he's going to be at the club, or kind of coach, more specifically the man. But yeah, I hope he stays too. I don't think there's a Manchester United fan who doesn't want him to stay. But it does, like you said, it's probably likely that he is going to go.
It seems likely. He's on the payroll, whatever. So I guess it financially doesn't make a difference. All right, we'll leave it there. United versus Chelsea. I think the patterns and the tactics, I'm not expecting a surprise from either manager. Honestly, I think this is probably fairly obvious the way it's going to look. It does look like an open game. Probably not as crazy as the 4-3 last April, but should be a good one. And yeah, I'm all for Vibes FC during this period. Nothing strange has to come from Ruud. Just send them out there, do the basics. They've had no time for working on anything particularly different anyway. So
yeah, you've just got to empower them, right? That's all you can do.
Yeah,
and just not have a donut.
That's all you need to do
in midfield. That would just be nice.
We live in hope. All right, Adam. Many thanks. Appreciate it. United versus Chelsea on Sunday. Come on, your Reds.